África, África, África.
África é minha, África é nossa.
África, África, África.
The city of Praia on Santiago Island, Cape Verde, has welcomed between May 18th and 20th, 2011, the regional conference on the theme Elections and Stability in West Africa, a forum organized by the United Nations Office for West Africa in collaboration with Cape Verdean government and the United Nations Development Programme. The meeting was attended by more than 100 important personalities of the African world. During those 3 days, they discussed the impact of electoral process on the stability in West Africa and its implication for conflicts, democracy and peace building. During this meeting, the participants have congratulated the growing number of elections in West Africa, reflecting the aspiration of the people to democracy, although emphasizing the increase of crises or tensions that have shaken the sub-region.
Agradecendo a vossa ilustre presença neste certame internacional e o vosso firme empenho em abordarmos o tema eleições e estabilidade política na África Ocidental, no quadro da construção do Estado de Direito nos nossos países, desafio que nos interpela a todos. Todo ser humano tende à liberdade e faz parte da dignidade humana viver-se em sociedade livre, com direitos, liberdades e garantias.
Je voudrais également exprimer ma gratitude, celle du système des Nations Unies et des partenaires à cette initiative, au gouvernement de la République du Cap-Vert pour l'accueil chaleureux et l'hospitalité dans cette belle ville de Praia. Mon espoir est grand que cette rencontre offre une occasion privilégiée pour tirer les leçons des expériences vécues pour le plus grand bénéfice de la consolidation de la paix et de la démocratie en Afrique de l'Ouest et au-delà.
Students of African politics, analysts and observers alike, will no doubt agree that tremendous progress has been made on the continent of Africa in the effort to remain on the path to democracy and the rule of law since the end of the Cold War, particularly in the last 2 decades. That effort has been largely in the direction of guaranteeing the free and fair expression of the will of the people at constitutionally mandated elections. Fortunately, there have been recent examples that buck the trend, such as the elections in Cape Verde, in Ghana, in Niger, in Benin, and in Nigeria, where greater vigilance, better institutional arrangements, and the introduction of electronic voting systems have produced encouraging outcomes and have started to weaken the rigging phenomenon.
However, it has become clear that there is a need to consider the electoral process within the broader context of the sustainable strengthening of democratic governance, in the prevention of conflicts, to protect the human rights, to limit the violence and risk of political and social crises, before, during and after the elections, which are considered to be a threat of stability on the entire sub-region.
Democratization and democratic consolidation require the political will to push forward the building and strengthening of democratic institutions and values. These goals are best served by genuinely free and fair elections in the context of a stability which rests on the full respect of individual and collective human rights. Successful elections and lasting stability in West Africa would go a long way in furthering peace, democracy and prosperity in the continent as a whole.
The conference examined the recent election in West Africa in order to emphasize the best experiences and identify the critical periods of the electoral processes and propose practical solutions to support the countries, especially those with elections scheduled between 2011 and 2013. At this event, the former head of state of Niger was the most welcomed by the participants. Salou Djibo has successfully led the transition process to democracy, repositioning the Niger on the path of freedom.
Permitam-me saudar a presença entre nós de Sua Excelência o Sr. Salou Djibo, ex-presidente da República do Níger, que conduziu com sucesso um processo de transição para a democracia e recolocou o Níger nos caminhos da liberdade.
The participants also considered that the establishment of the electoral list, the financial method for supporting the elections, the running of the political parties and the press, the procedure and the structure of the electoral commissions, as well as the management of electoral conflicts were key aspects to which exceptional attention should be given in order to hold free the transparent and peaceful elections. On the other hand, the meeting also identified potential factors of crisis and violence linked to the electoral process in West Africa, such as especially the weakness of the state, social inequality, lack of transparency and consensus on the electoral process, the ineffectiveness of the electoral commissions and of the legal system. The forum also encouraged member states of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to take all necessary measures to ensure the financing of the elections within the national budget. The role of the press and security sector, as well as the implementation of rules and principles of gender and human rights in the electoral process, was also highlighted during the evaluation of the implementation of the ECOWAS Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance 10 years after its adoption, in particular for preventing electoral deviation. The meeting underlined the need to improve its implementation by making it more coercive, creating a surveillance mechanism complemented by civil society. Regarding the role of the international community, the conference highlighted the need to strengthen and promote the coordination and collaboration among international and national partners, always respecting the national sovereignty and the specificities of each election in strict compliance with international standards for electoral process. The participants have also emphasized the enhanced credibility in West Africa through strong encouragement of the continuation of the activities, such as initiatives and mediation emanating collectively from ECOWAS, African Union and the United Nations. In the end, the regional conference adopted the Praia Declaration on elections and stability in West Africa. Participants acknowledged that assistant state authorities in West Africa in holding peaceful, free and fair elections has been at the core of United Nations and ECOWAS efforts aimed at strengthening democratic principles and processes in the sub-region. They underscored that increasing number of competitive elections across the sub-region has contributed to strengthen democratic prospects, with some countries succeeding in organizing peaceful and credible elections, while in other electoral processes have been increasingly marked by tensions and violence. They observed that shortcomings in the electoral administration, such as mistrust between stakeholders, partisan electoral management bodies, the lack of adequate mechanism to manage electoral disputes, and ensure inclusive representation and financial gaps in the organization of elections are important factors of instability. Participants reviewed successes and challenges of elections in the sub-region, including in relation to effective electoral assistance, the promotion and harmonization of regional norms and principles, and the integration of cross-cutting properties pertaining to human rights, the security sector and the media in the electoral management framework. They engaged in discussion on best practices and lessons learned from recent elections in West Africa, including in Guinea, Côte d'Ivoire, Cape Verde, Niger, Benin and Nigeria, and exchanged on necessary to strengthen collaboration and consensus among all election stakeholders and for a holistic and sustainable approach to electoral processes.
Nos seja permitido iniciar esta intervenção endereçando a esta augusta plateia as mais calorosas saudações em nosso nome próprio e da Casa Parlamentar que representamos. Os trabalhos da conferência decorreram em ambiente produtivo, o que aliás se encontra espalhado na excelente qualidade do documento final acabado de apresentar. Sintonos-íamos muito gratificados, caso doravante se pudesse demarcar um antes e um depois da Conferência de Praia, em termos de ganhos e benefícios para os cidadãos oeste-africanos. Declaramos encerrada a Conferência Regional sobre as eleições e a estabilidade na África do Oeste e muito obrigado pela vossa atenção.
África, África, África.
África minha, África nossa.
África.